Thank you very much, Mrs. Guha. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I now have the pleasure of inviting to the podium Mr. Puneet Gupta for his special address. Mr. Gupta leads Cisco's enterprise sales segment across India and SAARC region and is responsible for the public sector, ITS, and BFSI businesses. May I request all of you to please give him a round of applause.
Good morning. Can I get my presentation? Firstly, I want to thank IBEX for giving us this opportunity to talk to such an august gathering. And really what I want to do in the next 15 minutes is to give a little context of what's happening in the country, the impact on the banking industry, and the role that technology can play. If you were to just go back in time, and I remember when I first opened my own account way back in the late 80s, early 90s, we used to go to the branch, have a passbook, and go bank in the traditional way that we remember. And I'm sure there are many people in this room who would have experienced or been part of that time and the era. And then in the late 90s and early 2000s came the wave of core banking, the ATMs, the internet banking, and the mobile banking. And we've seen the way the world has changed for the consumer. I mean, in today's time and age, I probably go to my branch twice or thrice a year. And that too, if there's a family function and you need to see the family jewelry, that you end up going to the bank. But really, the need to go to a bank to be able to transact your business is almost gone away. I think where we stand today is maybe at another cusp where the whole digital story is going to revolutionize the banking industry. And I think that's what I want to go talk about. Let's just set the context a little bit about what's happening in India. And so the Honorable Prime Minister, who's come into power about 7 or 8 months back, has given this slogan to the country of a digital India. Now, digital India is a very broad term. And the government has rolling out the ambitious National Optical Fiber Plan. The Minister for IT and Communication is talking about being a broadband highway. The Urban Development Minister talks about 100 smart cities. And of course, the Prime Minister has launched the Jan Dhan Yojana scheme, the one that will lead to financial inclusion. In this context where India is going to get increasingly digitized, right, how is the world changing? And let's just talk about that. There is no doubt that the world is changing at an unprecedented pace. Mobile data will grow 18 times. A lot of applications are going to come from the cloud. And, believe it or not, in 2012, more data was generated than was ever generated in the history of mankind before. That's the amount of change that's taking place. The number of devices that will be connected will be huge. It's estimated that 50 billion devices will get connected by 2020. That's the change that we're all looking at. And the clear digital disruptors, as we call them, are going to be mobility, social, cloud, and data. I think between these four, we are going to see a clear paradigm shift in the industry. Video is going to dominate the traffic on the wires. Almost 62% of the traffic is going to be video. The social media, which is the Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, is going to boom exponentially. We've seen a rapid increase in the last few years. It's only going to grow up from here. But two very interesting data points that I want to talk about. First, India has got 81% mobile users, but only 10% of them are smartphone users. And I can tell you that this number is going to grow. And as this number grows, it's going to open up huge amount of opportunities for the banking industry. The second is about the internet users. And like Mrs. Guha said, that in the last few years, both internet and mobile has gone up significantly. I remember talking to a CXO many years back in the banking industry, and the view was that, look, mobile has such a great penetration, but internet is so low. And he said, we can only do as much with internet users because very few people in India have it. I think with the National Optical Fiber project coming alive, this is going to be a thing of the past. And while there's an estimate of 526 million by 2018, I think the number is only going to look higher. So, interesting statement. If banks aren't digital, they're going to be dead in the water. Strong and powerful statement, which is a clear sign of what's going to come in the industry. And two interesting data points that I want to call out. The first, that 85% of Gen Y customers will move their money to seek a greater degree of digital interaction. I remember seeing this ad on the television that this, little baby is born and, comes out of the cot and is playing with an iPad. I think that's the generation that we are going to deal with. And, at least my kids are a lot more faster to adopt technology than what I am. And probably these kids are going to be our customers, will be our customers tomorrow. And that's what we need to get prepared for. The second, that 54% of customers were interested in meeting with a remote financial expert. Now, I remember many of us have this mindset of having comfort to deal with face-to-face, to know the person, especially when it comes to our money and our investments. I think that's something that's going to change very rapidly because the Gen Y, as we call it, is getting a lot more comfortable with dealing with people remotely and to be able to make these decisions. And social media is the next big thing. So I was pleasantly surprised to find out that a bank in France is willing to transact money on Twitter request. Absolutely amazing. The value could be small, it's still an experiment, but that's the way. Or a bank in Japan is willing to allow its customers to send money to their friends on Facebook. Again, it's an experiment, but that's the way people are going. And fundamentally, they are going in that direction because the Gen Y is taking to social media faster than anybody would have imagined. So that gets us to the point that digital, social, and economic trends are clearly going to disrupt the retail banking industry. And these disruptors are absolutely clear. It's about data, mobility, cloud, apps, and more than anything else, it's going to be about security. As we adopt more and more of the digital disruptors, security will become even more important than before. Let's talk a little about challenges that are facing in the evolving financial services industry. I think the first and foremost is that the customer is getting more and more demanding. And the customer is saying that I want access anytime, anywhere, multiple channels, but I want the same consistency. The customer wants it to be personalized, wants it to be convenient, and is saying whether it is a contact center, whether it's a physical appearance in the branch or video or mobile or social, I still want to have the same seamless experience. The second, that's going to be the drive to digital. The experience of mobile banking is going to come into wealth management and a whole lot of other financial products. And I think the last few years have seen a significant increase in the adoption of mobile banking. Let's take an example of a life insurance agent. And I'm sure all of you know that life insurance is one of the toughest products to go sell. Also has probably one of the highest cost of sales. Think about a life insurance agent in front of his or her customer being able in real time to talk to with all the battery of experts behind, right from underwriting to everybody else, and making a real-time decision. Even if they can't get to a decision, to be able to make substantial progress in that meeting. I think that will bring effectiveness up, that will bring costs down. So the whole experience of mobile is really going to come into multiple other products. And of course, video as a form of multimedia connection is really going to explode exponentially in the years to come. The last, I think, which is going to be extremely important is about trading. And what a lot of industry reports are telling us is that 70% of trading will happen electronically without a human interface. And this will happen through algorithms, with the help of IT. So I think that's the drive to digital we'll see. But from a bank standpoint, doing all of this will be great, but they need to manage the risk. And like Mrs. Guha said, security is one of the areas that is top of mind for everybody. And I can tell you from a cyber security standpoint, if there are two sectors that get targeted the most, that's banking and government. Banking for all the obvious reasons, because that's like big money. Government because of all the sensitive information that exists. And there are people who get very well funded, whose job is to go hack. So if there's one thing that I would want to urge everybody in the room is that spend as much and more time around the security infrastructure that the bank has. And needless to say that regulatory compliance is only going to increase, is going to change by the day, and that's something we'll all need to keep speed with. So, where does this get us? From a bank standpoint, the challenge will always going to be to balance between growth and cost reduction. And I think both are increasingly important. Gartner study says that the 4 key drivers from a bank standpoint is going to be mobility, social, big data, and the cloud services. So think of it like this. On one side, customer wants to interact with multiple channels. On the other side, you have got loads of data getting generated. How do you consume that data for the benefit of the customer? And if you can marry the two, which is having the data in the background and using it for the customer and making it seamless across multiple channels, I think that will really be a utopian state that we can look for. And I think the answer to a lot of these problems is going to come from the Internet of Everything, which is the buzzword today and which is the way the industry is moving. So let's talk a little about what is IoE in the context of banking. And clearly you can divide this into 3 parts. First is just awareness. Awareness about your customer's asset, the interaction, the transaction, the whole connection. The more you will know about your customer, the assets and the way they are engaging, the more powerful you will be to go and position your offerings to the customer. The second, which is a follow-up from this, is going to be around to be able to be predictive and to kind of be able to see the needs and the issues and the challenges that will come. And I think banks that will successfully do it will be kind of a step ahead than everybody else. And in today's age, the customer need will be changing, so the ability to respond with agility and speed will be paramount. And the whole story around connect, engage, and transact is going to sit on a fundamental layer of analytics-enabled secure network. I think the 2 important points are secure and the network, because on one side, you've got customers trying to reach the bank or access the bank through multiple channels, anywhere, anytime. On the other hand, you're going to have applications in multiple data centers on the cloud, and all of this is going to get connected on one strong secure network. So let's move and talk about what are the potential new and better connections through a digital bank. I think the first one that we want to talk about is a finance spot, which is you walk into a branch which is only virtual people. There are no physical people in that branch. You've got these virtual machines that you can go and sit onto and then talk to a battery of experts sitting behind. Of course, you've got variants to it. You can have a full-fledged branch with 10 or 15 physical people, add some virtual people so that you can bring a lot more efficiency. You can have a variant of 1 or 2 physical people and 4 or 5 virtual, depending on the nature of the branch and what you want to do. These are all variants that will exist. But the part that really enamors me the most is the Identify Me Premier branch. And think of it like this. As a customer, if I walk into a branch and my smartphone becomes my identity, by the time I reach the banker or the virtual machine, the person knows everything about me, my last 10 transactions, what's my area of interest, and then that conversation is very different. So my smartphone Wi-Fi will then become my identity every time I want to go walk in. And I think that's the future that we're all looking at. So the connected digital bank will really bring banking services to customers in a satisfying and really in the most productive way. And if you look at this, it's going to be seamless for the customer. It's going to be productive use of the bank resources. It's going to be access to the banking resources regardless of where you are. And at the foundation is going to be the analytics, which will have all the intelligence about the customer. And clearly, as Cisco, we are at the heart of a connected digital bank. This is just a graphical representation of what a digital bank will look like. You've got the data center, you've got the branch, you've got the expert, you have the self-service branch, right? You've got people working from home or from the social media. And I think that's what the world is going to look like. It's going to be about advice and the customer analytics. It's going to be around security, which will become increasingly more important in the time. It's going to be about being able to offer your products to your customers. And it's finally about the secure application-centric infrastructure, which will drive this entire engine. Clearly, as Cisco, we are very well positioned to address the omni-channel customer experience, be it from the point of view of a kiosk or a mobile advisor, or the immersive telepresence or the video conferencing experience. And I think these are all channels that banks and the customers will see increasing adoption for. With this, I come to an end, and I want to take this opportunity to thank each one of you. I think we've had a wonderful partnership over the last 10 to 15 years. We've got excellent support. We work with almost all the leading banks in the country. And there is no better proof point of the support we get when we look at some of these numbers. Clearly, Cisco is a market leader in almost all the categories that we go work in. In some of the areas, we've got a share as high as 70% plus. In many areas, it's like 50% plus. And this really tells us of the kind of support and work that we've been able to do with you. And lastly, I would request you to take some time out, visit our booth A110, and where we are showcasing some of the digital banking solutions. We'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you very much. Really, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.